Dojo builds, and hopefully the finale of the Gen 4 LS build. So what we're going to be doing here is installing the lifters before we put the cylinder head. Unlike several different engines, you know, you could put the lifters in while the heads are on. LS's you can't do that. The cylinder heads have to be off. So we're going to put the lifters in the bore. These are brand new lifters. So while we're here, we're doing what you would call a DOD delete. And right now we have our lifters that were sitting in oil. So make sure they're lubricated. Put a little assembly lube on the ball end. And then we'll insert them into the tray. They sit in a tray like that, and they go 4 in a clip, and it's pretty easy. So this is a lifter assembly assembled in a tray. Again, we put oil on it. These lifters have been sitting in oil, lubricating, just sitting there, you know, soaking up. But I don't submerge the lifters in oil. That's called pumping up the lifters. I don't do that. If you see some other videos, they might show you doing that. I never pump up my lifters. I think at times that could lead to you having issues later on. But again, they sit in the tray. You slide them in. They only go one way. There you go. And that's it. So as you're installing, you see these notches. They're made to hold, to pretty much tell you where this the lifter tray is supposed to be. So you want to make sure your notches are facing down towards the block. And that's literally the only thing you need to know while you're putting these together. For the lifters, they slide in, they lock into the lifter tray, and there's a 10mm bolt that goes on there. I believe it gets torqued to 15 or 18 inch-pounds. So I'm just going to put the good old-fashioned broke Joe torque to it. And we're going to put it tight, and that's going to be more than good enough. Alright, again, don't be hangman, but so we get here and tight. Don't yank on that handle, because you're going to either pull the threads or break the tray. So I'm going to do the other side, and when we come back, we'll be slapping some heads on this. Alright, so all the lifters are on. Now we're going to get into putting the dowel pins. So it's very important that you put these dowel pins back onto the block for your head gasket. There's some word around on the internet, some places, that saying that if you have head studs that you don't need them, you need them. This helps locate your cylinder head. Don't be that guy. They're cheap, they're easy. If you lost some, just get dowel pins. And I mean, most part they slide in by just a small tap. That's it. That's all it takes. I'll knock all 4 in, and then we'll slide the head gasket on, and then we'll put the cylinder heads on, and we're going to do a typical pull the valves out, lap them in by hand. Unfortunately, we're not going to do it with this build, because when we took the heads apart, we saw pitting on the valve. I'm sorry we didn't take any pictures of that, but because we saw pitting and it seemed like we might have been able to lap it and clean it out, but being that we just need a good dependable motor, we brought the heads to my friend at Mike at the machine shop, and he ended up doing a good valve job for us. And again, it wasn't the, I guess, cheap way out, but generally speaking, most cylinder heads that you get, they're not going to have that. This motor's been sitting around and getting moisture, so that's probably what caused that pitting. So while you have a motor apart, it'd be good to knock a valve out, some valves out, and see how the seats look. I may do a video later on where you see me lap valves in, and the same process goes with any engine in general, whether it's LS or whatever it is, whether it's a Honda motor or a Chevy or Ford. Lapping the valves is lapping the valves. All right, so we got the dowels in. Now we're gonna put the head gasket on. So important to note, when you have a head gasket that's like this, it's not marked. It doesn't tell you what's his front or which is back. Normally, I go rivet side up, right? The rivets are pointing up, so that's how the back of the rivet looks, and this is how the front of the rivet looks. And on an LS, you have two passages, coolant passages, in the back of the head, back of the block that you don't have in the front. So you gotta make sure that these holes match up with the holes in the back, and literally that's it. So most head gaskets will come with markings, but these that came from Engine Tech, these head gaskets didn't. If you're gonna build anything that's gonna handle a lot of boost, get yourself factory LS9 head gaskets. But again, for this application, this is gonna be more than adequate. So this is the cylinder head that, as I was mentioning before, I got it back from Mike at Rogers Machine. He did a 3-angle valve job for us, did a light cut in the head, and make sure everything was good. So most of this, you could do like a light sand, like how we did the deck on the block. You could do on the cylinder heads and do a valve lapping of your own. But on this cylinder head, like I said, it was just looked like it was just be safer that we just had a valve job done. So when you put the cylinder head on, just line up the dowels, and woo, you don't drop it, but you set it in place. You have your lovely assistant hand you the bolts. We're using brand new bolts. They're D&J bolts as well. And good thing to know about LS engines is that the block, you don't thread sealer. This has Loctite, but you don't need thread sealer. They're blind bolts, so there's no water passages to worry about. So I'm just gonna get 2 bolts started by hand, just to hold everything in place. And as long as they're started, you'll be fine. And we'll move on to the next. I said about rivet side going up. On this head gasket, the rivet is the other way around, and the port is in the back. So most important, just make sure that the rear port on the head, water port, is in the back. That's the most crucial part. Alright, we're on. Thank you. Alright, we got them all started. Now we're gonna put all the bolts in and hand tight, and then we're gonna torque everything down. Alright, so we already torqued out the cylinder head. So we're gonna torque this cylinder in place. I'll show you the torque sequence and how we go about doing that. Now these bolts are torqued to yield, so you do not reuse these bolts. You always get new bolts when you can. And with the first torque that we're gonna be doing is to 22 foot-pounds of torque. So this is going to be technically a 4-step process. So we're gonna, that's your first, second, your third, then you jump over, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh, eighth, ninth, and 10th. Now, the most important part is to go across each time and try to torque the head down evenly. So that's the actual, technically the right way to do it. But as long as you're going across each time, you'll be more than fine. So the first torque, 22. Now our angle finder has been, our angle gauge has been acting up, so I want to have my friend Carlos help me out here and help me hold the gauge as we go through. So we did 22 foot-pounds. Now the next is we're going to go 90 degrees. Right, 90. So this is going to be that's 90. So I'll mark it with gold, and then when we do the next sequence, black, just so that we know that we got them all. The last thing you need to do is second guess yourself as you're going down the line. Good. Might as well just keep the cap off. Carlos.
Good.
Tell the people
why I'm wearing shorts.
Why you're wearing shorts and a sleeveless. Mind you, it's about 25 degrees outside. Yeah.
Because you dress for the weather you want, not the weather you have.
A word of wisdom.
Yeah, man, I think Rachel's beautiful because she's got good brains.
So we just did the 90, and then that's is gonna be 70, and that's gonna be your final for these 10 bolts, and then the final 5, we'll get to that. And now these, they're just going 22 foot-pounds. So after doing all that you just did, this is gonna feel like a cakewalk. Alright, so we're gonna slide all the push rods in place, and I'll do the ones on this side and then on the other side. It's just a repeat. There's nothing different. So I like to pull each push rod out. Just give a dab of assembly lube at each end and send it right down through there. Dab, dab, and drop it in. And that's it. Do that for all 16. And then you slide the rocker shaft. This is a non-adjustable style, so we're just gonna bolt the rocker shafts in. You don't have to lash the valves or anything. There's no science here. It's hard to mess up, but it's always good to, you know, lubricate it well. And, you know, take a good look at everything, because if you see this one, this end is no good. No. Pain. Alright, so it's always important to check your push rods, because sometimes you have push rods that have worn ends, like this one, and you see a little bit of shine on it that you actually see where it's worn. This is not the worst one. I'm not gonna go dig through and see which one is the worst, but you don't want to put anything that's worn on a fresh motor like this. So this is how a brand new one will look. They're fairly cheap. You get a brand new set for under $100. And the procedure is the same. Lube both ends and then slide them down to their home. So you get the rocker shaft, you lay them on evenly, slide them in. Get all the bolts started from the inside. Once you get everything started, you just want to keep working it out from the inside out. I mean, some guys just zip it down, but at the same time, you just want the shaft that lines them to deflect a lot. It's personal preference. If you want to risk it for the biscuit, that's on you. Okay, we just lightly snugged everything down, and now we're gonna torque everything down to 22 foot-pounds. So I have my massive torque wrench here, and all we're doing is bringing it to 22. I'll start with the 2 inside ones, the 4 inside rockers, and then I hop out to the outside ones. This one didn't snug very well, apparently. Alright, that's all done. I'll do the other side, and then we'll come back to put the valve covers on. So this is the lifter valley plate. It's a GM Performance part number. I'll list it in the description. This is for the DOD delete. So you gotta do the cam, and you'll need this plate as well. So you just lay the plate on. Line up the hose, and this gets torqued down to 18 foot-pounds. My torque wrench don't go that low, so I'm just gonna torque it down to 20 foot-pounds. It should be just fine. Our crossovers and our block-offs, I'll put them on now. Nicely painted. Make sure you put brand new gaskets on when you do it too. Alright, so the last thing that we need to do for this rebuild is put the damper back on. I'm not going to show putting the water pump and stuff like that, because that's going to differ depending on application, and putting on the sensors. It's all going to be different depending on where your vehicle is going to be on. So this is going to be the end of this rebuild video. So we need to put the damper on, and we're going to put it on properly. So we're actually going to use a damper installer. So we run the thread rod all the way down. You want to catch as much thread as possible, because we're going to be using the Ooga Dooga machine to slide the damper in. If you see me moving a little bit faster than normal, it's because I might be running out of memory on the memory card, and I want to finish this beforehand. So you slide it in place. Comes with a little bigger washer and a shorter, fatter one. Slide that in. All right. should be bottomed out already.
I don't know.
Yeah, I was thinking. Give me. Alright, let me stop the video here. Actually. Woo! Let's switch places. You're way more than me. Yeah. Alright. Yeah. 240 foot-pounds. And this motor's done. So I end this video with some pictures of the finished product. And that's how to build a Gen 4 LS.
It's done. Yes, Mr. Frodo. It's over now.